according to Charlotte Mason in Parents and Children. She says that education is neither more nor less than the practical application of our philosophy. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andrea, and today's video is a collaboration with Jerilyn from Our Homeschool Table. We are talking all about Christian homeschool curriculum, what we use, what we love, how we choose it, and all things having to do with Christian education. So I do hope that you go over to her channel and check out her video on the subject. She uses different stuff than I do and has a different perspective, but what brings us together is that we are both trying to point our children towards God and His truth, and I just love that. I love being able to meet new homeschool moms via YouTube. It's just been such a joy. So grateful to Jerilyn. I do hope that you check out her video. I will link it down below. So I was going to talk a little bit about how we choose the curriculum for our homeschool, how my choices are greatly influenced by the philosophy of Charlotte Mason. And I'll also share with you some of the specific materials that we use, like rod and staff for math and reading and phonics and things like that. So we always throw the word curriculum around. This is my math curriculum, this is my English curriculum, but really the word curriculum just means a course of study. And so when I'm thinking about the curriculum or the course of study for our homeschool, my first priority is to think about, does this course of study point my kids towards God? Now, one of the biggest influences in our homeschool has been Charlotte Mason. I was on the classical education bandwagon, but then I also found Charlotte Mason, which to me just seemed like the perfect way to implement a classical education. I just wanted to share something out of her book, Parents and Children. This is her second book in her home education series. So the first one's just called Home Education, which is a great read, by the way. She says that our chief duty as parents is to reveal God to our children. And that's our first duty. And we do that by forming right habits of thinking and of behavior. And also, we nourish our children daily with loving, right, and noble ideas. So that is the kind of philosophy on our Charlotte Mason education and our homeschool. So these are the things that I'm looking for. Is this nourishing my child's mind to point them to the truth of God? And so we do that in many different ways in our Christian curriculum in our homeschool. First of all, the Bible is our chief lesson. That's also in Charlotte Mason's book, Home Education. The Bible is the chief lesson of the day. And how we do that is we just start the day off with a reading. We follow the Ambleside Online reading schedule. Right now, we're doing the year 2 reading together as a family in the morning. And then my son, who is a year 4, he does his readings on his own, and then he comes and narrates back to me what he read. So in the morning, we do our Bible time, and in the Charlotte Mason style, you read, and then you have the children narrate back what they heard and try to get them to use the language that they just heard in the Bible to say back what they heard. And then have a brief discussion if there was something in it that they didn't understand, a word. Of course, we do all of that. I don't at least go into a ton of depth about personal application and stuff like that. I kind of at this point just want them to hear the story, absorb the story, and move on. Our just specific Bible time in the morning probably takes maybe 10 minutes, and then we will sing a hymn usually, and we will then usually go into something like recitation, where we are working on some of the things that we are memorizing, like poems and scripture and stuff like that. Here's where I get into the company that I use for my Christian homeschool curriculum. The one that I primarily use, I would say, would be Rod and Staff. They are a Mennonite company, a Mennonite Christian curriculum company. I use them for math, and I also use them for my daughter's phonics and reading. I also have English for both my daughter and my son, but we use not the whole thing of that because we do a lot of the grammar and stuff elsewhere in our curriculum during the day. But they are just super solid. They are no frills, and I love them so much for that. Now, I do think that if you're needing to use a workbook for something, or, a math or whatever, that is really going to come down to what works best for your child, what works best for you trying to teach it. It's actually not a surprise. I'm just a no frills type of person. So The no frills aspect of the Rod and Staff curriculum really speaks to me, and I can understand it. And I like that there's not just a lot going on the page. I have used it for 3rd grade math and 4th grade math and 1st grade math. We veered off a little bit, and I'm going to go back to it after I'm done with 2nd grade. I'm doing Math with Confidence with her for 2nd grade, but I'm going to go and have her reuse what my son used for Rod and Staff 3rd grade math. And so then we'll just stick with Rod and Staff math for the rest of their elementary education, at least. One little tip that I will share with you, that's something that I do when I am looking at like a curriculum to buy, is I'll not just look at the grade that I'm interested in at that moment or the level that I'm interested in. I'll go and I'll look at what they have 5 years from now, and to just see where this course of study is leading to. And then to also just look at some of the next year's upcoming to see like, oh, is this something that I'm going to continue to like? Or is this a good year, but next year is really a stinker? So something like Rod and Staff, another one of the reasons why I love them is that you can do a pretty in-depth flip through of everything that they have on their website, just on their website. And I like it because you don't have to download something in order to look at it. It's just a flip through of everything that they have. But I also just like how they intertwine scripture, the truth of God, and good character and all of that stuff in everything that they do. I mean, truly, when I was doing 1st grade math with my daughter, I remember just laughing because, the word problems. Jesus healed 10 lepers. 9 of them left without thanking him. How many lepers were left to thank Jesus? 1 leper was left. The next week or so, we read that story in church, and it was just so funny how my daughter recognized it because it was in her math. So it was, I don't know, it was just really funny. And so again, I just love how they are reinforcing Christian values and Christian stories into everything that they do. I mean, lots of their stories in their curriculum are, examples about brother helping sister and building up strong families or doing the right thing in business. I just love how it's developing a Christian worldview for my kids in everything that they do. Math is something that points to God. God made the universe an orderly place where we can understand these truths, and that's amazing, and that's pointing to God. Another Christian curriculum company that I like for specific things in particular is MasterBooks. I use these. I haven't used them this year, but I used to use these a lot in previous years for our morning time, which are these answer books for kids. So it's just a really kind of fun thing to do if you just have a few minutes. Little question and answers. Did Noah have to search for all the animals, or did they come by themselves? How did they know they had to come to the ark? And then there's the answer over here with a little Bible verse that goes with it. So I do love a lot of the resources on MasterBooks. I did use their math for 2nd grade once with my son, except he was in the 1st grade when he used their 2nd grade stuff. And we liked it. I just kind of liked Rod and Staff better. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I use MasterBooks, love MasterBooks for their piano lessons. So I do that with my kids on MasterBooks Academy. I love how they're reasonably priced, very much appreciated. So I would say that after Rod and Staff, I probably use them the most. Oh, I also use Memoria Press for certain things. Last year I used Memoria Press totally. I'm not using them again this year just for other reasons, but has nothing to do with there was some kind of error in their theology or something like that, or how they presented God. Nothing to do with that at all. I just wanted to go with more of the Charlotte Mason approach to the classical education than the Memoria Press approach to classical education. So it's so funny that Jerilyn and I were making this collaboration now, because I was just thinking the other day about how different my kids are. My son and my daughter, they're only 2 years apart, but they could not be more different in how they learn the things that they like with their schoolwork versus the things that they don't work. I mean, they're just so unique. It's funny how sometimes certain things have just worked great for my son, and I just think, well, I'm just going to use this forever and ever. But then when it comes time for my daughter to be using that same thing, I'm like, this is just square peg in a round hole situation here. So we might need to check into something different. I say that to say that when it comes to choosing curriculum, I mean, I would not buy too much too soon. I definitely keep the stuff that could be reused just in case I choose to use it with my daughter. But I don't really feel like we're having to stick with something if that's not what serves her at that time. I really do love how on Ambleside Online, they have recommendations on reading plans and things like that, but they don't really say like, here is the math curriculum you need to use. Here is the phonics program you need to use, because every child is an individual and we need to treat them like they are individuals and work with what they need to work on. So I do love that about using Ambleside Online as our guide for our classical Christian education. I might change things up on what I use for one child versus another child, but no matter what, it's always going to be with the Christian worldview. It's always going to be something that points to God somehow. I was thinking too about this video. I remember once, just in my own reading, when I first got started trying to give myself the classical education I never had. You read The Well-Trained Mind or something because you're like, oh, I really want my kids to have this classical education, but I haven't read those books. I don't know those things. I don't have those skills. So how am I going to kind of cram and get as much of a classical education that I can get starting at, age 37 or whatever I was at the time. And, it says to read these books and stuff, but I just had a really hard time when it came to thinking about the book after I read it. I knew that, oh, I liked it or I enjoyed it or I didn't, but I didn't really know how to talk about it. And one simple thing that was really a great piece of wisdom, I heard on a podcast called Stories Are Soul Food with Nate Wilson. He said that ultimately, like, the main question that you need to ask yourself after you consume anything, art, books, movies, anything like that, is to ask yourself, does God like this? I mean, that should be the ultimate judge. And I was like, oh, so that's just always something that I have held on to. It is a way for me to get a conversation started about a book or a piece of reading or anything like that. Like, do you think that God likes this? Well, yeah. I mean, even if it's not necessarily a Christian book or a Christian story, does it point to something about God's truth? Does it point to something beautiful? Just stuff like that. So I do like to think about that when we are discussing books and things. It's a way to give your kids a Christian curriculum, is to just always have them thinking in their mind, does God like this? Does this point to God? If not, shall I proceed? I do want to stress that I don't feel like anyone needs to do exactly what I do or choose the products that I choose. I'm just here to share what works and is useful for me and things that I am learning along the way, in case it helps you in your homeschooling journey as well. I also am constantly reminded of the fact that even though I have been, my son is in the 4th grade and I've homeschooled him this whole time, and there are still companies that I have never heard of where people use their Christian curriculum and are loving it. There are books that I've never heard of. So do please in the comments below share what you use and love, if it's some kind of a Christian curriculum that is working really well in your family. I'm always interested to hear of new things that I've never heard of and look them up and just be more educated myself on the topic. I do hope that this was helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.